Alrighty, what's going on, fellow community members? In this section, we're going to be extending the testing training and making this more in-depth, kind of reiterating some new points or some existing points and introducing some new points to help you get out of the testing phase. I want to make this very clear and very concise. The goal is to teach you how to think and teach you how to become a better media buyer so you can make decisions on your own. And we have a good amount of new sections to introduce. There might be some overlapping information or some information that you feel like might even contradict what we've talked about up to this point in the trainings. And that's okay. Ultimately speaking, that's why it's important to just understand the first principles of testing and media buying. That way, no new information and no new strategies that come along will confuse you because you have the same understanding of what it really takes to be successful and get out of the testing phase. So we're going to break this down into some extended trainings here. And this is all to kind of piggyback from the existing, testing SOPs and strategies and frameworks we already teach inside the program. So this is the 7 hard rules to understand. And these are going to be the principles that are very applicable to what we teach and do. And that way, if some new training comes around or I decide to update or change something, you still understand the core principles unless something new comes out of nowhere and I tell you guys specifically. But for the most part, these are just some hard rules that I like to follow suit on. All right, so the first one is, it's very important that you have a product that can talk to multiple avatars on a deep level. Think about darts, right? If you've ever played the game of darts, the whole goal is to throw the darts at the board to hit the bullseye. Obviously, if the goal is to hit that bullseye, the more darts I give you, the higher chance of success you probably have, right? Even if you've never played darts before, if I give you 100 attempts or if I give you 2 attempts, which one do you think you're going to be more likely to hit the darts in? Obviously, if I give you 100 darts. So the more darts I give you, the higher chance of success you have. This will only work, though, if you have a valid deep avatar that you can tap into. So making sure that we're not just picking avatars, and something I've realized in the avatar prompting and course material is that sometimes I find that depending on the product and the niche we're going after, people are just creating these avatars that can exist or maybe exist, but it's not a big enough total addressable market. It's not addressing enough people that it's applicable to, and more on that later. So an example of this, right, if the mass desire here is regrowing here, one avatar that we can really go after are menopausal women, and then another avatar we can go after is pregnant women. These are both massive audiences that we know live on Facebook, and it makes sense that if we do choose one or the other, no matter which avatar we test, we know that we have a great chance at hitting the bullseye and getting something to convert and scale for us. Pretty big avatars that have a lot of data points to support the mass desire is ultimately what we're shooting for. So this goes to the point of product research. It's so important to avoid these very minute, small products. Like, for example, if I was selling a case for blue light glasses, you essentially have only 1 or 2 good, solid attempts at speaking to an avatar or group of people before you run out of really big avatars that make sense to continue to tackle. Right. So a big part of avatar testing and getting on the testing phase will come down to how big is the total addressable market on Facebook? Am I going after very minute avatars that exist, but at a very small level? Or am I, casting a big enough, wide enough net that allows me to eventually hit on a specific avatar that is not infinite, but pretty big in vagueness, right? So that's very important that we address that with the product early on, even before you start running your first set of ads and stuff like that. 2, you have to understand to make smart data-driven decisions, you have to operate in 2 to 3 day intervals, sometimes even more. Making decisions from one bad day isn't smart. So I've stressed this throughout the trainings, but yet still for some reason, people still ask me stuff or message me stuff like, Alex, I know you said not to make a decision on day 1 or after day 1 or after one bad day of data, but I did it anyway. And always in the back of my mind, I'm always a little confused because I clearly stated that, hey, making one, Facebook will have bad days. Even when your campaigns are optimized and running and you're operating at 2.5 ROAS, there will be days where you still have a bad day, you're below break even, but that doesn't mean you just turn things off. Same thing applies early in testing. One bad day doesn't mean you turn things off. And I know at times it can suck. You're spending money and you're losing money. I know at times your performance can look really bleaky and it just doesn't seem like it's trending in the right direction. I know at times you feel like it doesn't make sense to keep testing. But if you notice here, I used emotions in all 3 of these statements, and that's what you're using to make decisions, and that's not smart. You have to have a average of data to make a decision, generally speaking 2 to 3 days. I understand some of us operate on tighter budgets, so that's where 2 days make more sense for someone other than 3 days. But ultimately speaking, I got people that I know that run ads very successfully, and they don't make a decision to their ads until 7 days. They literally let their campaign run for a full 7 days without touching anything. I get that not everyone can do that and take that risk of just losing money, but they do such a good job with their research and their copywriting and their messaging that they know they're going to get something to hit. And even if they have to work a little bit with their copy after that week period, they know that they're going to be able to get it to convert eventually. And that's what I'm trying to get you guys to do. I'm trying to get you guys to do as much work as possible in the beginning, which you'll see later on in these trainings, before you even start testing. And that way, the more research, the more work, the more effort, the more intention you put early before you even set one campaign to go, the less likelihood you have of just burning through a ton of money because you did your due diligence, you did your heavy work before you turn the campaigns on. But you have to understand that Facebook's system, although not perfect, is powerful, and you need to allow it to learn. There are 2 billion people that use Facebook every day. The system needs time to collect accurate data over time, right? So turning these ads off after one bad day or no real decision, just strictly emotion, is a surefire way to fail. And ultimately speaking, you do whatever you want to do. But if you're going to message me and ask me, what should I do, Alex? I'm going to tell you, refer back to the trainings because I explain what to do. I'm not going to give you any advice different than what I already break down in these trainings. So if that's what you're looking for, unfortunately, I can't help you there. So whenever you're considering turning off an ad or an ad set, make sure you have at least 2 to 3 solid days of data to support that, especially early in testing when you're only spending $50 to $100 anyway. Number 3, you're most likely not going to find a winning avatar on your first attempt which means that the first 3 days of testing, you can pretty much chalk it up to loss. Yes, I've seen people get great results within the first few days of testing, sometimes even profitable, but that is super rare, and I don't want that expectation to be set. You might look at the wins channel and you might feel like, man, all these people are doing really well and they're blowing up their brands and whatnot. Why am I struggling? Why am I not getting the same results? I've been trying, I've been cycling through product after product. You have to understand that the expectation is going to be different from person to person. There are just so many variables that go into launching a product and becoming profitable, and you just got to work on your skills as a copywriter and making sure that all the other intangibles are situated right. Your mindset is good. You're making data-driven decisions. You're actually learning to become a better direct response copywriter, right? Your website and all that stuff is optimized. You're picking good stores or good products and then launching good stores. That's what you have to focus on, right? So this idea that, I didn't see the results I wanted in the first 3 days and the product sucks, just doesn't make any sense. A lot of times we're going after products that have already been proven to sell a million times. Why should it be any different for you? Okay, so that is kind of the concept there. So this is super rare. I literally would expect the first 3 days to flop when I'm testing a new product, and here's why. Avatars are a lot of the times ad nauseum, meaning a lot, right? So we see these same avatars, and what I meant to say here, avatars are being advertised to ad nauseum, right? The same person is being advertised to a lot. So although you might be selling this new fancy gadget that no one else has heard of to help stay-at-home moms lose weight, there are already a ton of advertisers out there selling to that same avatar. So although they're selling different products, different mechanisms, maybe even different story, that same stay-at-home mom, because you guys are speaking to the same avatar, is going to be in competition, right? So ultimately speaking, that's just something to be mindful of. There are a ton of advertisers out there already selling to that same avatar, and this is not inherently a bad thing. It just means we need to do a good job of surveying the field and also scraping direct feedback from our audience to further understand the market in detail. All right, so we're going to be talking about a new strategy and some new prompting that we can use to create new stories. They're going to follow the same structure and formula, but it's going to be sourced slightly differently. And ultimately speaking, right, this is to the point of first principles. People want strategies and tactics, and that's why they fail. They need to understand the first principles. And the first principles is this: to win, to be successful as a dropshipper and create good performing ads, you need a big TAM avatar. All right, a big enough avatar that can speak to enough people that way you can run ads consistently month over month and not burn out really quickly. You need a lowish direct market competition to that exact avatar. If I in 2026 were to try to sell stay-at-home moms weight loss, man, am I going to have a tough time, because that market and that competition and that avatar has been spoken to a million times already about all the new weight loss solutions. I'm going to now need to rely on some new innovative product to sell to them, which is possible and can happen, but your chances of finding a new out of the blue product that, like a GLP-1 or peptides, right, it's going to be hard to sell that type of stuff. If you can come across it, great. But generally speaking, you're going to try to look for an avatar or a group of people and speak to them in a way that isn't already really saturated by the market, right? Like if I'm trying to sell hair loss right now and I'm selling hair loss to menopausal women, good luck, man, because it's not that it's impossible, but you're going to have to really be really tactical with your marketing strategy to speak to them in a way that they already haven't seen a million other ads for. And then the last thing here is dialed in copy, right? So this goes without saying. You can speak to these existing avatars that have been spoken to already, but if your copy is weak and it's not up to par and it doesn't stand out to the competition and the landscape as a whole, you're going to fall behind, right? It's like people trying to advertise these days with newspaper when Facebook ads exist. You're going to lose despite your newspaper ads, following a lot of the foundational marketing strategies that work and can convert. That there's way more advanced and better ways to advertise now. So the same thing with your copy. If your copy isn't dialed in, if it's not fitting the standard of your market, right? Because there's other direct response marketers in your niche. If you're not up to par with them and competing and analyzing their stuff and outperforming them, you're going to just lose the bid every time to those same advertisers. So a lot of times we create good copy. It's relatively good, but we're behind the 8 ball, meaning we're not like as dialed in with our target audience, and we're not seeing what our competition is doing, and we're not doing a good enough job analyzing our copy versus our competitors and seeing what works and what doesn't work, which we'll talk about in these later trainings. Rule number 4, if you want to be successful, you have to get aggressive with testing based on direct feedback from the market and not guessing. So this concept where a lot of times, for some reason, people message me and DM me, or I'll see it on comments or even on Instagram. They'll say, can you, look at this, or can you tell me why I didn't, see any success with my campaign? And I'll look, and they launched one campaign, spent $1,800 on one campaign and 5 ads for a week and a half of testing. And I'm confused by that concept, right? Because if the whole idea is that an ad, the whole goal is to create an ad that performs well for you, why are we sitting on our hands and feet, not testing enough, not trying enough, right? My best performing campaigns, if I were to show you my ad library, it's just a ton of different campaigns, a ton of different ad sets, just testing. That is the name of the game. And they're quality tests too, based off the research and data I gather, which again, I'll teach you how to do. But don't just take my word from it, take fellow community members, right? So, hey guys, just wanted to share a small win. I finally hit 1K a day with my Shopify store. To be honest, it did not happen fast. I spent a lot of time learning, testing, losing money, fixing creatives, and trying again. One thing I can say for critical thinking, for sure, critical thinking is everything. It's my favorite word and phrase. Critical thinking and using your brain. It's not just about launching ads and hoping for the best. You have to constantly analyze what works, what does not, and why people are not buying. And the second thing, creatives are everything. You can have the best setup, but if your creatives are weak, nothing will work. Right now, I'm selling in the US. US, my CPMs is $17. CPC is around 0.7. Honestly, that still feels kind of crazy to me, right? So take it from the fellow community members. There's so many stories like this from fellow community members stressing the importance of creative testing, creative volume, but being intentional behind it, and making sure you're not just throwing up nonsense against the wall. You're actually being intentional and testing new variables within your ad. Right, Mark here, 15K a day, damn near 16K a day, 87K in a week. Ending up Q1 with a bang. Average 44% profit margins last week. As Alex says, scaling is the easy part. When you stack winners in your ad account, Scaling really becomes as simple as increasing budgets every 24 to 40 hours. It's crazy to think that just a week before this, I was stuck at 2.5K a day. That's the power of testing. If you test with intent and know exactly who you're speaking to, you'll consistently produce winners, better ads, make all the difference. I don't have some special media buying strategy, campaign structure, or product page. I just focus on making better ads and the results follow. All right, so shout out Alex. If you asked me 3 months ago if I'd be here, I wouldn't have believed it. The course is seriously gold, right? And this is the important sentiment I want to stress more and more. You're gonna hear me stress it more and more. There's no specific rules to campaign structure. There's no specific rules to media buying strategy. Facebook themselves are trying to make this stuff simple, and for some reason, people are making it harder than it needs to be, right? I know you want the specific instructions. Launch this ad on day 1, and then day 2 you do this, and day 3 you do this, and day 4 you want these step-by-step strategies. But realistically speaking, the whole idea here is to just deploy better ads into your campaigns, give them time to spend, give them time for Facebook to learn. The way we do it and how we do it doesn't matter as much as just the process of doing it itself. That is the overarching goal. So as I go on to make and explain more things throughout these trainings, if you just keep that in the back of your mind, I promise you a lot of times, any question you're going to get ready to ask me or ask the community, you probably can answer yourself just by the knowledge I'm sharing with you right now, right? Even before we get into the strategies and the tips and all that stuff. All right, Adam here, perfect. I love the way he presented this, right? So stop asking stupid questions. Yeah, but is this prompt, or should I use this theme, or how long should I test, or what do you think of my product? Is my hook good? What is the research strategy? What's your niche? Blah, 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 all noise. Go test the freaking product and stop asking questions the whole time. It's not like you're going to press a button, money will come falling from the sky. Do something, don't be lazy. No one's going to spoon feed you. Take responsibility and do something about it. I tested 70 campaigns for the same product until it took off. And your campaign, and you complain after testing a few times, I wish it was easy. But no, it's not. Be creative. Don't be a copy paste machine without even knowing what you're actually doing. Read your copy before you publish it, right? So the same sentiments I'm going to stress here are coming directly from the community members. These are the people that are coming through, learning, applying, and seeing results. So don't just take my word from it. There's multiple community members that have stressed this exact point. Stop asking all these minute, small, detailed questions that don't really make a difference in the grand scheme of things. And I know as a beginner, you don't know what you don't know. And yes, it could feel like there's certain things stopping you. But the way I like to look at it is, if you focus on the bigger picture, all the smaller things will fall in place. All right, so to the point I mentioned earlier, you're going to need to continuously test and test. Chances are you might unfortunately go 3 to 5, maybe even like Adam, your 70 different tests before potentially finding it on your 6th, 7th, or 8th one. It's going to look different for everyone else, but that's the game you play. The good news is once you do lock in your winning avatar, scaling is pretty straightforward from there. Rule number 5, due to the amount of variables like your website, offer, ads, budget, target country, competitors in the market, your ability to write copy, and etc., there is an improvement formula on how long you should test, how you should structure your campaigns, what dollar amount should you cut a product at, how many ads should be capped into an ad set or campaign, etc. There's going to be so many nuanced questions you're probably going to ask, and I'm going to refer you back to this exact moment in this training. And you need to understand, right? I'm going to share with you some best practices, things that I think should be a good starting point. But media buying isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. Stop thinking linear and start focusing on the biggest drivers that actually drive home sales. The whole goal here is to get a complete stranger scrolling through on Facebook, stop their scroll, get them to read a transformational story, highlight the product as the bridge between where the storyteller was before and where they are now, and entice the reader to want to take action and click the button to go to your product page. That is the ultimate thing that we're trying to do. And assuming your website and offer is good, right? So to the point here, right? If you have a good offer, you have a solid website with realistic social proof marketers, plus product cards that help drive home the sale and good ads, that's all you need to focus on. That's all you really need to focus on. Sure, there's some small details that might trickle in here and there, but focus on these points and then you're good to go until you get out of testing, until your campaigns are rolling. Then you can start worrying about optimizing all the different functionalities and features of your website. Then you can start worrying about third-party tracking and all this other stuff. But in the beginning, focus more on how can I find where the avatar is now and where its relation to this product is, and how can I convey to them in a story that this is the only logical solution. That's the difference between where they are and where they want to be. The way we structure those ads in the campaign and all the small detail questions you're probably wondering in your head generally don't matter as much as you think. At the end of the day, if you focus on just creating better ads, you will win. All right, so I'll give you structure and foundation because I understand as a complete beginner, you need some type of foundational starting point. But it's important you quickly take off the training wheels and stop worrying about all the nuance. Oh, should I do this at this point? Or my campaign was running for 3 days. It looked good, but now it's bad. What should I do now? Start thinking bigger picture. If you're having an issue with your copy, that means you need to try something new. As long as you're giving your ads at least 3 days of testing, and you come with conclusive data that it did not perform, then now you need to test something drastically new. Emphasis on that drastic. We'll talk about that more in a second here. All right, number 6. What is considered a better ad, right? So you hear that all the time, and I get it. It must be annoying hearing that. All right, what's a better ad, Alex? How do I make the ads better? Everyone just says makes better ads, but what does that mean? I don't know what needs to be changed. Well, for one, I seriously think that a lot of you guys just don't do a good enough job actually reading directly from Reddit forums and understanding your target audience in the first place. So that's going to change in a moment here. We're going to go through and talk about how we can extract directly from our target audience and figure out their pain. That's going to be the first biggest thing. There's a reason why I personally don't read our fellow community members' ads and whatnot, because to read and make better ads, you actually have to be in the shoes and perspective of your target audience. You have to know what they're saying directly. And unfortunately, I can't do all the research and analyze all the data for you, right? That's going to take hours of time to go through and actually conceptualize where the market is and their biggest pains and problems. So a better ad is relative to the person you're speaking to and the pain that they're dealing with. So there's going to be structure, there's going to be formulas, and there's going to be formats that we use to create our ads. But what we plug into that structure and everything aligned with it is going to be solely based off the research we've gathered directly from our target audience, right? So it's super important that no one can just read an ad and say, oh, this is going to convert for sure, unless they understand and have done the research on your target audience. So if you want to know how to make better ads, the whole goal is to make ads that resonate with your target audience, because the idea is that we're creating what we call a mirror effect. We're trying to get the reader to feel the same pain that is being portrayed in the story, because it's what they're actually feeling in that moment in time. And we're trying to get them to understand the only reason they're not solving the problem that they have right now and reaching that mass desire that they want is because of this simple ideology or this idea or this concept. And if you figure out this concept, or you understand this concept, all your problems will vanish, right? All your problems related to this particular problem will vanish. And the only way to get that solution or that key is by getting this particular product. Now, the way we convey that has a formula broken down to what works, but what we plug into that formula is dependent on the data we gather directly from our target audience. So you have to read and understand where your customer is coming from to make better ads. So to piggyback after that, right? Ads that spark controversy and evoke emotion get the reader to look in the mirror and reflect on the similar pain, experiences, desires, and channel that desire into a logical next step, which is to learn more or take the next step into the process to solve the problem. Your copy should drive home the next step, not the sale. It's why I rarely ever tell people my copy to offer the offer or even the brand name. Now, we'll get into more of the details when we create the copy, but I want to clarify this. Too caught up into these small nuances, just understand the general idea here is that we're trying to mirror, reflect on their similar pain. And what we're trying to do is sell the next step, which is, I found the problem. It's all because of this one particular product. And this product is amazing. And you can only really get this product from this one particular website. If you wanted to learn more about this product and the website or whatever, I'll leave a link below. And that is a really rough and not polished idea, but hopefully you're getting the overarching story here, is that we're trying to suggest the next step rather than hard sell, right? The alternative would be, so this brand called Alex Robinson 123, they have a 50% buy one get one deal, but it's only exclusive to this summer spring sale right now. And while that sale is going, they have free shipping. So I'll leave the link right here. Make sure you click that link, sign up with them, and inventory is running out really quickly. So if you don't click that link, they might not have any in stock. That we can reserve that for an advertorial, but for the initial copy, while the user's still on Facebook, we're just trying to get them to the next step. More on that later. Hopefully that's not too confusing. You'll see some examples of what I mean. To do this, you need to create ads that resonate with your target avatar. The idea I always think about is you don't joke with your parents how you joke with your friends, right? So there's certain jokes you'd say to your friends that you would never say to your parents, and vice versa. Some of you guys might have a relationship where your parents and your friends are basically the same. Cool, but most people do not resonate and align with your friends better than they did with your parents, or even other friend groups, right? Some of us might have had multiple friend groups where your certain jokes or certain stories or similar interests align better with this group of people than this group of people. This is important to understand, and this concept is to stress the importance and the rule of native copy, right? So the same thing is true with native copy. To make your ads feel like they resonate with your target audience, you have to understand them inside and out. I'm going to teach you exactly how you can do that. When you're reading your copy, it's not about does this sound good to me, or about does this sound good to or it's more about does this sound good to the reader. It's why, like I mentioned earlier, it's fundamentally doesn't make sense for me to read your ad copy, your hooks, etc., and tell you if this is good or not. There's no way for me to know. I won't have had done as much research on your avatars and your market as you should have. So you have to use your own discretion and critical thinking skills here. I'm sorry, I know a resource that a lot of you guys would love for to be able to be done is for me to read all your copy. Even if I had the time, first of all, I just wouldn't have the time to read everyone's copy. But even if I did have the time, it still wouldn't make sense to get my opinion on whether or not your copy is good enough to be ran in Facebook, simply because I just don't have enough research or understanding of your avatar. I don't know what keywords or buzzwords resonates with your target avatar. That's your job. You got to research that and see that. And you're going to see it clearly in plain sight in a moment here when we get to the next set of instructions and the next set of concept here. All right. So just get good at understanding exactly what your target audience is saying and the pain that they have. And then being able to make ads is going to be super easy from there. And the seventh rule here, very important. AI is good, but not perfect. You should not be using prompts and just assuming AI has it right. I spent hours with prompt engineers, prompt people that are like really good at AI and Claude specifically. And I myself have done a lot of research and trying it and using it every day. And it doesn't matter how hard I try. There's no such thing as writing the perfect prompt that can output the perfect prompt for you, or the perfect scripts for you, or the perfect ad for you. You're going to need to leverage your abilities and skills to make adjustments. Sometimes you're going to need to make small tweaks here and there. And other times you're going to need to make foundational structure differences and changes. That's okay. The whole idea is for Claude and the copywriting abilities of these prompts to assist you in creating these ads. It's not going to create them for you. It's going to build the format. It's going to give you a nice rough draft, but you have to read through it and ensure you understand it. And more importantly, you have to make sure you read through and understand it, because when you launch your ad and you run it for 3 days and it flops, you got to understand what components about it is probably leading to it to not flop, and how can I make a new ad that doesn't reiterate the same components that didn't work the first time. All right, so these are the important concepts here. 7 hard rules. We're going to get into the next training, which kind of is going to outline the format of how we're going to tackle these next set of prompts and the whole goal and ideology here.